Okay, I'm going to call the March 19th meeting of the Development Review Board to order. All right, I'm going to read my spiel first, and then we can get going. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. Application materials and written testimony is posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if materially important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulation, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decisions of the board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board. So I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we're on record, we're going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So with the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to the application, please affirm the following. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in this cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That is 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of this hearing. While we may vote on the application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, the town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. So Catherine's still not here?
She's here.
Oh, she's here? Okay, so we do have a full board, so I don't need to appoint you, but I will be appointing you for the second application. Okay, we're going to go to 2025-2. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am Peter Paggi with Windham and Windsor Housing Trust, presenting the chalet project for final PUD approval. I'm joined by Adam Morse of Engineering Ventures on Zoom and Andrea Murray of Vermont Integrated Architecture on Zoom. So as the board is aware, this application received conditional use, site plan, and preliminary PUD approval in January, and we're back tonight for final PUD approval. And we can provide a few updates on the conditions from the last meeting. So since the January meeting, we have made the following updates. We have increased the storage capacity of our stormwater system to accommodate the 100-year event. We're also continuing to work with Academy School on this and a few other items as we continue our state permitting process. And I know Corey from Z is here and presented a memo. I've received a copy of the memo as well. We've updated the parking area for the 31-unit Phase 1 building to add an island with landscaping to ensure that that parking area meets the zoning requirements as discussed at the last meeting. We've added 1 additional parking space to the Phase 2 parking area to accommodate 1 parking space per dwelling unit. We've adjusted the lighting, the location of the lights on the lighting plan to ensure no spillover onto the public right-of-way or neighboring properties. And we've provided a lighting fixture cut sheet showing compatibility with the zoning regs. Additionally, we're continuing to work with the Brattleboro Committee for Active Transportation on pedestrian and bicycle safety on South Street. We're currently scheduling a meeting with them in April to talk about potential strategies and how to work with the Traffic Safety Committee. And we're looking forward to that process. So those are the kind of the major updates on the application. Since the board is largely familiar with the application, I'll skip the kind of general presentation and just would be happy to answer any questions.
Have anything? No?
Looks like they covered what we
Did
were.
everything we asked.
Did everything we asked.
Thank you. Tom, do you have any questions?
I don't. I guess I would like just to know as the ensuing months proceed, like what becomes of their talk with the Traffic Safety Committee and BCAT. But I don't know if that's, I'm not requiring to hold up this application for that, but I just like to be able to stay in the loop and know what comes of it.
Do that.
We can do that. We'll work with Brian and his office on that as well. Yeah.
Catherine, do you have anything?
No, not this time.
Okay.
Am I unmuted here or what?
Oh,
Yes, whoever that was.
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Hear me? Okay. Prentice Smith from South Street, Brattleboro. One of my concerns is that
We haven't asked for you yet.
Okay. Later then.
Yeah. Okay. No questions from the board? No. Okay.
Brian has something to say.
Just with regard to road improvements, that's really the purview of the Public Works Director, and traffic safety can advise them, but he makes those decisions.
Yeah, I think he just was asking for legal feedback, which I'm sure is no problem. Okay, now we can take public comment. Anybody in the audience here have anything to say? We don't have that thing set up.
We usually have another microphone.
For the audience. Yeah, for the audience.
This one back? You want?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Sorry, didn't notice before.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Go ahead, just get up, give us your name and your comment.
Yeah.
So anything that any of you might have said last time, and it was read into evidence, you don't need to repeat it.
Okay.
Okay, and you are?
Just state, my name is Robert Clark. I'm the District Facility Manager of the Windham Southeast School District.
Okay, go ahead.
I would just like to make a couple of quick comments before Prouty speaks on our behalf. I'd like to say that the school system supports this project. We are not against this project. What we have issues with is the school that is so close, and over the last, I've been here 26 years, I've seen it, the flooding get worse and worse, and the last one, and these weren't 100-year floods, this last one, and it came right up to the back door. The stormwater pipe that's in the parking lot goes under the school, and it's only 18 inches, and it was put there in 1957. That's concerning. So we're here with the protection of our children, not against the project, but we want to keep the school open, and flooding has the potential to close that school for quite a bit of time. And where would those children go if a flood happened and we had to close that school? So we have to think about all those things. And for us, these are realities, because I've just seen it get just gets worse and worse every year that goes by, and it usually happens in July. I don't know what a 100-year flood looks like, honestly. I know what they look like right now. I don't know if they're considered 100-year floods, but they're pretty severe. They do a lot of damage. So that's why we're here. And Corey wrote a memo I believe that's been handed in. And the conditions in the memo are written in a manner as to not delay your project. That's not what we want to do. We want to cooperate with you. We're not trying to delay or derail any of this. We just have concerns about home building from years of experience. And if we could just work together on this to address those issues, I think we all come on ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Your court.
I'm Corey Prouty, professional engineer hired by the school district, and just want to quickly follow up to make sure you have copies of 2 memos. I have a few copies. I emailed it to Brian late today.
So the people on Zoom don't have it? Okay.
And I don't think it's a good use of time for me to read those memos to enter them into testimony if you have copies of them. And I want to acknowledge we kind of feel like we're out of time. Adam and Peter have been great in dialoguing about our concerns, but we haven't had a chance to resolve them. So I'm happy to have dialogue tonight and continue that dialogue as Peter indicated. There are 6 specific conditions that we did include at the end of the memo dated today. Talking with the school district, those conditions were written, as Robert said, in a way that we hope could allow the project to be approved and move forward and continue to work with us. And I'm happy to answer.
Can
any
you
questions.
summarize what you said in the memo? We just got it.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to refer to my copy.
And for the
yeah,
benefit of
absolutely.
folks who weren't able to get it.
So 3 overarching concerns. Robert referred to just stormwater and flooding in general. All of the water from this part of the neighborhood appears to collect in the drop-off loop in front of Academy School and go through an 18-inch pipe under the school. So we feel like that should be studied and we should confirm the capacity of that pipe. And I know, as a fellow civil engineer, Adam's going to design a system that meets the state's regs, engineering ventures. And you have to look at pre and post conditions, but we have a bad existing condition there. So we're sensitive to the condition of that drainage system. There have also been surface runoff and groundwater runoff issues, as Robert said, for over 20 years between the Dalem Chalet property and the west side of the school. I've worked on several projects trying to address those issues over the years. So we'd like to work with the Housing Trust and their engineers to see if there's a way that we could mitigate some of that. And then thirdly, the new stormwater pond, which is being proposed, will meet all engineering standards. It's proposed right on the property line, and that raises some concerns for the school district. So we've talked about that. And I think that one's really a matter of just understanding the construction details around that. There's going to be a berm built, and we'd like to understand the details of that. Regarding the conditions that are proposed, I could briefly say that we're requesting that there's more engineering evaluation done to the stormwater system and that pipe that goes under the school. That I think this is needed anyway. I'm not an attorney, but an easement and maintenance agreement for the pipe that leaves the Dalem's property and appears to be on the school district property. I think that's what the survey showed, that that pipe is actually on the school's property. A phasing plan to make sure that while they build the stormwater pond, if we get a rainfall event, a heavy flooding event in the meantime, that water has someplace to go while the stormwater pond is getting built. To double check the grading along the property line, because that pond is going to be built right on the property line, and the topography it looks like it may end right at the property line, which And there's an existing wetland, which I understand can't be abandoned because of regulatory requirements. Everybody always thought it was on Dalem's property. It's actually also on the school property. So the school district would like to have the boundary line moved so that the pond is not on their property. And then further discussion about a curtain drain, which we started at our last Zoom, and to see if there's a way to coordinate with the school district to build a curtain drain that would help mitigate this groundwater.
Okay, so you, back to the second to last point, you want the property line changed to have that wetlands be totally on the Dalem's property?
Yes.
Okay.
The thought there is concerns about maintenance liability. I don't know, Robert, if you have additional comments on that. But it was a surprise to everyone that the pond straddled the property line. It's not much of a pond anymore, but
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else in the room? No, okay, how about the gentleman that was on Zoom?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, you are?
Yeah, Prentice Smith, resident of South Street. I just wanted to say that Dalem's has always been a tough place to get out of as far as traffic coming into South Street. South Street is not a very big road. It's not a 2-lane road. It's certainly not 4 lanes. So coming down that hill, it's about the steepest place on the hill. I've done a couple 360s there on icy weather. Wreckers couldn't even get up there and get my car out one time. Can be very treacherous, very icy coming down that road. And there's going to be near misses or collisions right around that exit if there's many cars coming out, because it's just the way the weather's going with more ice. It's always been a tricky spot when people come out of there to make sure you're not going too, you have to be going very slow through there. And if a higher number of cars coming out than there used to be, I've just seen many instances where they've been close to collisions because of cars going up and down the street and coming out of that area. It's a tough place to get out of.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. What I'd like to do is put a condition on its approval. We continue working on the stormwater and these other water issues.
Yeah, so our project does require a state stormwater permit, which in the regs is the requirement to submit to Brian and his team as a condition of this approval. So our process, doesn't end here. It'll continue, and we'll continue our conversations with the school. Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve with the stormwater and the other water issues?
Yeah, and just one quick question is your feeling on the moving of the boundary line for having the pond on your.
Yeah, so that was, as Corey said, a surprise to everyone. All the tax maps had showed them on our property. Then we got the final survey. So we were expecting them to be on our property. So it was a surprise to find out it wasn't completely on our property. I don't think we would have any issue with that. I think we could work with Brian to do a lot line realignment.
Boundary line adjustment.
Boundary line adjustment, yeah. So I think that would be a pretty minor thing on our end.
That would be an acceptable condition.
It would.
That's all I was trying to.
That's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I would make a motion that we
2502.
2502 with the conditions of accepting a boundary line adjustment, continuing to work with the school over stormwater.
Yep. That's all I had.
That's all I had.
Okay. Can I have a second?
I'll second
Thank you,
that.
Allison. Let's go down the line. Tom?
Can I ask a question quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, because I'm not in the room and I can't see, I just want to know from the school district, does that condition more or less meet, their, or seem like it will meet their concerns? At least as far as process goes? I mean, are you guys seeing nods from them? I don't know if I'm asking them to speak
No.
again, but
You have to come up to
'Cause
the
it-
microphone if you want to.
because I don't understand the process much of the stormwater permit at the state level, and so I don't know if they're going to have a good voice in that or not. I just know nothing about it.
Thank you, Tom. I guess I'll have to ask for clarification on whether the condition you just read is what will be in the permit in writing, or whether you'll consider the 6 conditions that the school district and I have submitted on the memo. Because those have more detail and clarity as to what the school districts would like.
What we usually do is give administrative approval to the conditions. And so we leave that up to the zoning administrator to determine.
So does that mean I turn to you and ask you the same question? Will you consider our 6 suggested conditions as part of writing up the approval?
Yeah, my understanding is that you'll have to negotiate between the trust and the school district to come to an acceptable stormwater arrangement.
As I said to Peter before the meeting, this is a better forum for having these discussions and figuring out common ground than at the state level. You submit comments on a state stormwater permit and, for lack of a better term, it goes into a black hole. So that's why we're here tonight, presenting our concerns to protect the kids and make sure that the school doesn't have negative impacts, which we don't know if there will be negative impacts. We just think that there's more investigation and study that needs to be done to confirm. So
And that's about what the condition says.
I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, Tom?
I'd either need to hear the condition again, but I think I'd be more open to like a continuance of 2 or 3 months, and then see what they've worked on and come to an agreement on in that amount of time. So I think if I understood the motion, I'd vote no on it.
Okay. Catherine?
Someone has their hand up.
Oh, really?
Jeffrey? Yes.
And do we have anybody on Zoom with their hand up?
My hand was up.
Okay, I'm sorry, didn't catch it. And you
Um,
are?
My name is Jeffrey Rivard. I'm at the address across the street from
Okay.
the Dam Chalet.
Go ahead,
My
Jeffrey.
comments were mostly to traffic. The area is thin out front of that area. There's vehicles that tend to park on my property right across the street from there. There's like a sewage drain too that I clear out myself. I don't know where it goes to. But there's also these safety metal side pieces that look a little outdated and crooked. I think a heavy vehicle or even a heavy electric vehicle, if there was any risk of congestion, might plow right into those. And I wanted to comment on that in terms of pedestrian safety.
Are those on the property of Dalem Chalet or?
One is on mine, just a little bit higher up the hill at 85. The other is down a little bit down the hill across the street. And I can't tell, but it appears to be on the Dam Chalet property, or at least at a corner between a homeowner and then the driveway parking lot.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think we can bring those concerns to traffic safety.
Traffic safety.
I think
Okay,
that
Ann.
can address it.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody else need to speak? All right, Catherine, how's your vote?
Aye.
Okay. Jordan?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yep.
And I'm a yes. So that's 6 votes yes and 1 no. So congratulations, you passed.
Thank you very much. And on the conditions that involve coming back to Brian, we'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to hear 2025-6, which is the Winston Prouty that was continued from last month. I just want to say anyone who testified last time, you don't need to do it again. Yes.
Wondered if I could say some words on the regulatory context, or if you think this is the appropriate time.
No, you can do it. Just let me finish what I was going to say. So if you spoke last time and you don't need to speak again, your stuff has been put into evidence, and unless you have a change or an addition. So at this time, Michael's going to leave us and Tom will drop off too. We had conflicts there. Thanks for getting all your stuff in on time. It was really helpful. You gave us time to look at it. It was. Okay, and I want to appoint Keith to sit on for this time. And go ahead, Brian.
Sure. So I missed the last meeting, so I didn't really get to contextualize this application. This isn't just a straightforward development in a mixed-use zoning district. It's development in a planned unit development that's also a mixed-use district. So you end up with a combination of different regulations, and you have more flexibility because there's a campus master plan. And the campus master plan allows for a development pattern that kind of replicates and is compatible with the existing campus as far as building orientation, orientation around internal pathways, and not so much the type of road-based orientation that the mixed-use district has. So applicants can look to both the master plan for the planned unit development, and they can also relax some of those standards if the underlying zoning district permits it. So this gets to things like building frontage, whether the building is orientated towards the road instead of the campus internal pathway network, and similar. So the master plan did call for a parcel in this area, and it did allow for residential uses.
So is there a copy of this big plan anywhere?
There is. I can enter that into the record.
That'd be good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's been a number of years since the board actually heard that and modified it. I could have asked this to be an amendment to the planned unit development as well as site plan, but I felt that was premature, that it was actually allowed by the current plan. And I think the time to amend the planned unit development is when the final plan for the full build out is concretized. And because otherwise we'd have to probably return as things are modified as they get more information.
I think that would be a good thing to have. It'd be good to see what you're looking at as a whole. We do not go to your neighborhood meetings. We have to stay kind of neutral, and so that we haven't been exposed to what you've been telling everyone and showing everyone for the most part, I think. So it'd be good to have that sooner. So when you come up, and I also want to say that it's fine to come in for kind of a sketch plan review before you come to your final, and then we can work out all of our issues, and you'll know what we have in our minds. And before you put in a lot of money into your drawings and everything that you're, detailing. So go ahead. Sorry.
So Chloe Leary from the Winston Prouty Center. Thank you for having us back. We're here to respond to the items that were in the minutes from our initial hearing, and Mark is going to go through those. Related to, just to remind, we do have a plan for the campus, and we see phase one as a way to test out, like, how does this work? How's it going to, and how is it going to inform what else we do? So it's great to hear you say that. And I would say it would have been premature for us to come with the big plan also, because we're learning and trying to figure out how to do this in the best way possible for the community. So appreciate that opportunity for feedback going forward and this opportunity for feedback. So I'm going to let Mark go through the items that were in the minutes.
Hi, everybody. Mark Westa, landscape architect and project manager for the Winston Prouty project. I'm just going to kind of go through the items that you've seen my response for the most part. Item 1 is confirmation from the fire department that the proposed access driveway can safely be accessed by a fire truck. So we did meet with Brattleboro Fire Department. They really had no concerns about that driveway access, but they did request several other items. One of these included providing fire vehicle access along the south side of the building, so that there can be coverage on 3 sides, providing 2 new fire hydrant locations, and showing the general locations of information and access points on the face of the proposed building. So we did revise our site plan to accommodate all these items, and we submitted that back to the fire department. That was drawing SC07 in the packet I gave you. And Assistant Chief Kier has accepted the notes from that meeting and the plan as we drew it.
Good. Do you want to, does anybody want to see that? We can bring it up on the, Catherine, have you got a chance to look at it all?
No, well, I kind of looked at, when I got the email,
Okay.
but I wasn't able to print it,
Do you want to see it on the screen?
I wouldn't mind.
if
Okay.
possible.
Yeah, okay. Can you do that? Thank you. And we can talk about some of the differences and a little bit better if we can see it.
So do you want me to get up and point or just talk from here?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
All right. So the south side of the building is at the top of the page in this drawing. North is down, and there's a lightish gray area that would be on the south side of the building, on the short side of the building. And that's the area that the fire department wanted to be able to get a vehicle to. They can fight fires from the street, from our parking lot area and from the parking lot above, but they wanted to be sure they were getting access to that side. So we have provided, what we're showing is sort of a grass paved condition, which is acceptable to them.
Yep.
And meeting the dimensional requirements that they're wanting. And we're showing sort of how in the sort of dashed lines up the middle of the parking lot and turning into that area, how the fire department could move a vehicle into that position.
And then 2 more hydrants.
Right. So a hydrant near the top or south side of the parking lot, and then also one at the top of the hill. You can't quite see it, Stephen, if you move it down just a little bit, right where that walkway hits that upper existing parking lot.
Okay.
They would like to have a hydrant there.
Yep.
It's, to be honest, that's a location where our water line is going anyways, and I'm sure the DPW will want a hydrant there to flush that anyways.
Right. Okay.
So that'll all work out fine.
Good. Okay. Any questions about the fire access? Any of the changes that were made?
Did you, if you don't mind, did you have to move the building for the fire access, or did you just?
We did move the building slightly northward.
Okay, and north is down.
North is down, yeah. Yeah, we moved it about 4 feet down. Yeah. All right, item 2, a fully complete site plan, including a photometric plan. So we revised the site plan and the layout plan to indicate all of the proposed light fixtures. Those include ones along the walkway, along the parking lot, a couple along sort of the face of the building, and then the pathway going up to the upper parking lot. There will also be lighting mounted on the face of the building at each sort of entry into the building. And then, we will be using downcast night sky compliant fixtures for all the lighting to meet the standards. We know that the lighting will be mounted on 12 to 16-foot poles. So, your basic pedestrian level lighting. And the ones over the entrances will be approximately 8 feet in height, over the doorways. We have also submitted a photometric plan, SC08. Maybe Stephen, could you put that up? So in this one, we are showing on the right there, we've circled 2 of the distribution patterns for a light that we are likely to use. And then on the left side, we've shown those distribution patterns to scale. And I think a good example is the squarish pattern. If you look to the upper part of the drawing, you can kind of see that square shape. And so that's being replicated, and it's showing the lightest gray is the 0.1 foot candles, and that would be anything extending beyond, a higher foot candle beyond that would be possibly light trespass. So we are showing that we are not having light trespass off of our property.
Okay.
Okay. Item 3, draft language of the shared parking agreement. So we indicated on our site plan SC03 and our layout plan SC04, 6 spaces. So could you put up SC03? Yeah, that's fine. So the walkway that goes from the top of the new parking lot, the south end of it, and continues south and up the hill to the adjacent existing parking lot. We will create that pathway, we will light that pathway, and we're showing 6 parking spots that will be permanently designated for this project. I would also, note that that parking lot is often quite available for parking, so guests and other people can be there. I was over there last night, and there was 1 car there, so it's pretty open.
Allison, this was one of your concerns, as I recall.
I was wondering how it would work with the units.
Yeah, I think we might have wanted to know. I don't think we need it now, but we'd like to know how the spots are going to get allocated to the apartments in particular.
Okay.
And you probably don't have that level of detail yet.
We don't have that level of detail yet.
Okay, so we might make that a condition and give it to Brian to, right.
And we did share the draft language with you.
Yes, that's fine. Do you understand what our question is?
How will people know where to park?
Right.
Which unit gets which kinds of spots?
Right.
And I think that, we have talked about different considerations. I don't think we're ready to commit to something, but considerations like accessibility. If they have a car, I could imagine, our hope is that some people will live here and not have a car. So
Right.
I think until in some ways we don't know who's going to be here, we can't know exactly, but we know that there's at least 1 spot for each unit.
Yeah, so I guess we know, as we've had these kinds of things before, not exactly this, but we don't need to know the exact detail, but that you're going to have a plan. Yeah.
All right, item 4, confirmation from the applicant that the proposed access driveway conforms to 313.g standards for driveway turnarounds. All off-street parking and loading areas must be designed so that vehicles can enter and exit the property without backing out onto the street right of way. So the parking lot and loading service area are designed to provide ample room for vehicles to enter and exit the property without backing into a street right of way. This includes car turning movements within the parking lot, just kind of normal movements. And then at the south end, at the top of the page, there's a fairly large area that will be, will probably actually have a bit of a mountable curb, but it will still be paved. And that can provide access for the fire department. It can provide access for vehicles servicing the buildings, and it can be a turnaround spot for any normal vehicle.
UPS trucks.
UPS truck, yeah, things like that. So it's plenty big enough to handle, a moderate sized vehicle. Yeah, so we've shown that in the plan in those sort of dashed lines. All right, and then item 5, given that the Home Act prohibits development review boards from reducing any aspect of the project that conforms to applicable zoning district dimensional standards, the board would like additional testimony from the applicant to establish whether the proposed site plan layout is the only such arrangement that can be developed on the site without reducing the scope of the project, or whether the applicants could feasibly alter the arrangement of the site without reducing the scope of the project. So we've included a series of graphics. That's the colored graphics. Could you those up, Stephen?
In this same document, or
It should be, yeah. I think it was near the top. Oh, I see. You don't have them as the agenda. It should be it'll be a separate document then. I'm sorry. There we go. All right, so we have included a series of graphics to depict the constraints of the site and the logic that was used to develop our proposed site plan layout. We cannot feasibly alter the arrangement of the site without reducing the scope of the project. So this first graphic depicts the project site just kind of within its context, located between the highway, the Winston Prouty campus, and the neighbors across the street on Maple. Just to point out that the existing building is somewhat in the middle of the site. The parking is to the left of that. And, you know, it fits sort of that general character of the campus quite well. The next graphic really depicts the most significant kind of constraints on the site. This includes the wetland area, which was delineated by a professional wetland scientist, and its buffer off to the left side, top side. Also the stream corridor that is to the lower right, the steep slopes, you know, something over 20%, and then the usual kind of setback along the property lines. So that leaves, you know, somewhat the green area available for development, if you will. On the next graphic, we're depicting other site considerations that have played a significant role in the overall site design. These include the location of the existing driveway off of Maple Street, which is in the lower kind of left there. The existing wooded buffer to the lower right, which is quite a swath of wooded area there, and the general slope of the land that really comes from the steep slopes downward, and is something to be considered both with sort of the layout of the building, which fits well when it's kind of parallel to those lines, and that the wetland or the stormwater management area to the left is located sort of at the lowest grade of the site. And then the next one, yep. So this one depicts meeting some of the zoning requirements. I think, Brian just mentioned that we have some leeway here because of the PUD. But basically what we're trying to depict here is that to get something near to the frontage requirement of 40% of the entire frontage, we would have to build a fairly long building hard against the property line. We would still need a driveway to the left, and then the wetland or the stormwater management area to the left of that. And basically what we're trying to show is that doing this would really, we think, put a burden on kind of the views from the streets and the adjacent neighbors. And so the last drawing then, SA5, now just to say, this is the former graphic. This isn't our current updated plan. It's what we had when I was doing this graphic. It's a very efficient way to develop this housing project. It fits the context we feel, that adjacent to the campus. It fits the site constraints, including the wetlands and the steep slopes. It respects the wooded buffer, And we feel that it both meets the intent of the mixed use district and the intent of the PUD and kind of what campus is all about. So the final result of this is we feel that other arrangements that could be developed on the site would have a number of impacts, including decreasing the fit with the site, increasing the visual impact on the neighborhood, and maybe most importantly, significantly reducing the scope of this housing project. This reduction would increase the per square foot cost of the project and would require an increase in the rental rates and destabilize the viability of the project. And I think that is our testimony.
Okay, so I noticed that the trash and the bike storage little unit thing is pushed back now from where it was in the original plan.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was for two reasons. That was partially because of the fire departments providing them access, and it was also to try to screen it additionally and put it more to the side of the building.
Yes, and that's good. That's where it should be. Do we have any questions?
There's one.
Go ahead, Keith.
What's the projected lifetime for the structure?
I don't know that, but we are talking about a prefabricated building that is very high quality, and I would expect it to last, upwards of 80 to 100 years. It's a very high quality building.
Is that factory built? Those are factory built?
Yes, we're exploring that. We're not for sure doing that. It's going to come down to the cost, but yes, it would be basically factory
And
built
then assembled?
and assembled on
On
site.
site?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We may have covered this a little better last time and I kind of have forgotten, so I apologize if it's been covered. But the walkway up to the shared parking or the agreement parking, is that going to be just ramped or is it just going to be, will it be stepped at all? Because it does look like quite a slope.
I imagine it will have to be stepped.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about regulations on that, but it just from eyeing it.
Yeah.
It is a steep slope. And I think that goes to the idea of who will park where.
Yeah.
Sure.
Obviously, people with accessibility issues and mobility issues would be given priority to adjacent parking.
Maybe a slightly cheaper rent if you don't mind the steps.
Awesome. Right.
Well, with steps though, it's more difficult to keep it clear of snow. Yes, nice. It will be lit though, I saw.
It will be lit.
Yeah.
And there are already existing steps on campus that are maintained and cleared.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Catherine, you have any questions? Looks like you do.
Yeah, if I recall, didn't we discuss Maple Street and how difficult it is to get around there?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said. Can you repeat that?
I'm getting a feedback and I don't know why.
Okay.
How busy Maple Street was.
I think a resident came up before us the last meeting about Maple Street and the traffic that's there.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that traffic is not the purview of this committee, but we also do not expect a significant increase in traffic generated by this project.
I don't have any questions. No.
Yeah, I do not. So I do a little bit about accessibility, which we went over the last time. And when I looked it over again, it steps into the various units. So these units are separate, more or less, right? They're
Right.
It's not just one entrance into that whole place. It's separate entrances.
It's sort of both, actually. There is the center area will lead to a common level that can go to all the doors.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that is how, even though a few of them have steps, if you needed accessibility, you can go down the path a little farther and turn and then go back. Obviously, it would be more likely that people needing accessible, corridor movement, will be closer to those doors. But yeah, all the units are accessible on the first floor.
On the first floor, but it's a little bit more of a journey.
Yes.
If you're at the end of that instead of, okay.
Yes, but still very reasonable.
Okay, I think I'd like to make that a condition that the administrative officer can work with you on to make that as easy as possible for the accessibility of those units.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would just say we've worked very hard on the grading.
Yeah.
To do the best we can. It's a difficult site. So, yeah.
Keith, did you have your hand up?
No, sorry.
Okay, anybody else? All right, let's go to the audience and I'll repeat what I said. If you were here last time and you gave testimony, that still stands and it's been put into the record. You don't need to say it again. Only if you have a change or an addition. Well, he might be a while. You might.
Yeah, I won't be. I'm Joanne Morgan, and I live at 31 Pleasant Street. And I'm here as a stakeholder of just being a neighbor of the project. First thing I want to say though is thank you to this board for what you do. I mean, it's really nice. And it's, you know, I appreciate it, and I think the neighbors appreciate too, that you guys are keeping an eye on things like that. And I had written to Miss Leary, and you very nicely wrote back a thoughtful response, and I appreciate that too. I wanted to say that. So I went around the neighborhood and I did get signatures.
That's what this is.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And they all agreed that the viewpoints that I expressed will also be what they would say if they were here.
Okay.
The first thing is that we all seem to understand that the zoning regulation is that anything that's going to be built will enhance and protect the historic neighborhood, which it is a historic, the whole area is a lot of beautiful old houses. And what we've seen so far just is this illustration, which really aesthetically looks institutional, I think. It doesn't look historic, it wouldn't blend this particular, I don't know if this is the latest one. And people that I spoke to can't understand why, if there's zoning regulations, why is to protect the historic area, why is this okay? You know, people were getting kind of sarcastic that, well, if these regulations don't mean anything, I'll just open up a big auto junkyard or, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you know, what difference does it make? I'll just do what I want because they get to do what they want without any, you know, regulation to have to adhere to. And I wanted to say too, that people really do care about that, the historic aspect of the whole neighborhood. In July, Carol Lalott from the Parks Department held a neighborhood meeting regarding the bandstand at Fuller Park, which is like SD Park, whatever, Fuller Park, which is really in bad shape, but there was strong feeling that the history had to be preserved in some way, that whatever plan was for that bandstand, that the history of it needed to be preserved, you know, and kept with whatever design they came up with. So I just want to say that people really do care about that. It's not just, oh, who cares? Yes, we care. And we're going to be driving right by this big place along with thousands of other people. And it's right there. It's very close to the road from what I've seen. And where that house is, at least it's going to be demolished. Close to the road. And I think it's not a good, you know, enhancement or protection of the historical area. Okay, then the second point that I'll just quickly make is that I know that, you know, there has been things looked at about the traffic, but we all are bearing the burden of a lot of traffic. And to think that there's going to be that much more. If there's 3-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, the likelihood won't be that it's mom and dad and 3 little kids. It's probably going to be people, pairing up, teaming up in order to offset the rent, which is good. That's the way it should be. But they're going to have cars. I think it's just very optimistic to think that, they'll all take the mover or they'll ride a bike or something. They're probably going to have cars. So there's going to be an impact. And we already bear a heavy burden of traffic because there's a couple of streets there. It's mainly Maple. My gosh, if you just stand there for a while, whoosh, whoosh, cars going by. Then Pleasant, it's like a little route that the GPS will send you on if you want to get from anywhere in this southern area of Brattleboro, and you want to get over to 91, or Route 30, or just bypass the downtown and get over onto Putney Road. You're going to be going Maple to Pleasant, and then down I guess that's SD, then up that Union Hill, which is really something else, where that stop sign is at the top at Western Ave. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like a whole little corridor that just, has a lot of traffic. So we're very sensitive to the traffic impact that there will be, mainly because we're all looking at reduced home values. This is going to hit us financially hard, having more traffic. And this is not the only development that's happening. I mean, there's on Guilford Street, there's units going in. We have units just at the corner of Maple and Pleasant. I think it's only 5, but more cars, conceivably more than 5 cars. And I think I forget where else there's other places, but that's all I want to say is it's affecting. We've seen it in, there's actual examples of people that have their house would have been worth so much amount, but the fact that it should really be Maple Avenue or Maple Boulevard. It's not a little street, nor is Pleasant. Pleasant we have the problem of it being probably the flattest, widest street in Brattleboro. It's really nice and wide and flat, and people just zoom. I know that's not something you can do anything about, but it's something to consider the impact it will have on the neighborhood. So that's all I'll say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ryan, can I ask, what was your address again? I'm just
31 Pleasant.
getting oriented with a map. So
Yes,
thank you.
31 Pleasant. I'm kind of like right in the middle
Thank you.
of Pleasant Street. Anyone who knew Tony Kingsley, it's his house. Anybody know?
Anybody else want to speak? Go ahead, Michael.
If it would be convenient if I could sit down at a table, but.
That's not how we treat people in the public or make testimony.
Oh, okay, I did last time.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
I found that disappointing.
All right, I had arranged ahead of time. No, that's all right. No, that's quite all right. All right, well, I gave you some handouts to everyone. And I know a month ago, back in February, I gave you a lot of information in a very short period of time. And now that you've had a month to review what I had given to you, I was wondering if you found any inaccuracies in any of the information that I supplied.
We're not on.
Oh, no, I was just wondering.
Okay. So you can tell us what you want to talk about.
All right. And secondly, I guess, I know that I was distributed written testimony from somebody that was in favor. Got a letter from Michael Magnolia. And I have yet to see, I mean, I noticed on the report the invitation to this meeting that we got the other day, that written testimony would be put up onto the website. And I've yet to see anything that I've supplied put up on the website. It has been unavailable. It's there, but you are not on, you don't have to answer any questions of mine. I just thought I'd bring that up. That doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem, we've got things in the positive, but not opposed. And that seems a little contrary to the whole.
You can finish before you speak. That's fine.
Okay. And all right, I do applaud your efforts in your deliberation with the, and I understand the restrictions with the Home Act, and however, you can't deny the application. I mean, you can deny the application on somewhat subjective compatibility and character of the area criteria. In this case, I really don't see that you can ignore that. I mean, it seems like it's something that's.
So Michael, you brought this up last time, right?
I did mention it, but like I said, like Joanne had mentioned, the whole concept behind the mixed use area is to protecting and enhancing the historic and neighborhood character. And I guess I didn't go into what I thought enough detail, but if you are not interested in hearing anything else about that, I will move along to my concerns about wetlands. First of all, I will mention at the February 19th meeting, all of my graphics for wetlands were shown on the screen, but they were not shown to the public. They were missing from the presentation. So I am assuming that they did not make it into the public record as far as the visual. All you could see was me showing people over on the very far corner of it.
So they're on the record for the court, right? Yes. And that's what matters.
Yes, we have a copy of the presentation, and that's part of the record we have on file.
Okay, both digitally and.
Yes.
Okay, it just didn't show up there. So, anyways, I did mention at the last meeting that I had tried to contact Rebecca Chalmers, our district wetlands ecologist, but I had not heard back from her. She did, in fact, contact me 2 days after the meeting. And she did send me some very interesting educational links for newly altered wetlands and how to delineation practices to do all that. Then the jurisdictional opinion came out from Act 250 saying that there was no Act 250 was going to be required for this project, no Act 250 review. At that point in time, I felt compelled to contact her again. She mentioned that she was planning on reviewing this as part of the Act 250. And she said that she went through and that she would contact both Arrowwood Environmental, which is the name of the group that Winston Prouty had put on their website as being their wetland wetland specialist, and also the Winston Prouty. And she asked for wetland information from them. They said they would not supply her with any information before this meeting about the delineation of the wetland that they're using. She was very concerned when she saw the drawings, how closely they were putting everything right up to the edge of the wetland buffer, and that the accuracy of that wetland was very important. So she sent me, in there, I've got two emails. You can bring up the first one up if you'd like.
Oh, I can take my glass too. You can take these down if you're going to go downstairs. What happened to this sound? Let's see.
So whoever's talking, you want to put yourself on mute unless you need to be talking, and it's not your turn. So, thank you.
You have what would be 20?
You handed out printed copies.
I gave you a.
Yes, you gave it shortly before the meeting, and you have to, if you want us to display, you have to do beforehand and make arrangements. But everybody on the board has printed copies.
All right, so 20.
Except for Catherine does not.
Except for Catherine.
But you should have prepared earlier and submitted this so we could have distributed it to everyone.
Okay, well, like I say, it's just me. I'm sorry. And, you know, some of this stuff was just coming in, even, you know, everything just sort of peters in here. And I try to, I just got some of this information like a couple days ago. So I can't arrange to have everything in your hands before it comes into my hands. For instance.
Okay, so we'll enter this all into the record, of course. We'll enter this into the record, of course.
Okay, well, all right, then I guess I will read you the important parts of what she said to me in her email was I understand from Winston Prouty that I will not be receiving any further information prior to the date of the town DRB meeting. But she said, I have asked Winston Prouty to please consider that the project may need to go through the town process twice if the project needs to adjust for wetland permitting. Those are a lot of the important things. She does go through in the second page on that and talks about an awful lot of how and why the jurisdictional opinion came about and what happens to the why they are not under Act 250, why they no longer have to deal with Act 250. And then the second email dated the 13th was to she wanted to make very careful, be sure that everyone understood that any delineations of a wetland expire after 5 years and should be performed during the growing season. The name of the delineator, the area in which the wetlands were found and delineated, or supplemental information. All this information needs to go into Rebecca, and it has not been provided. And the issue is the other thing that she was concerned about was that the shed is that normally they like to have that shed with 10 feet around it so that it can be maintained. But right now, that shed is right against the wetland buffer. And so if that is on your page 21B, and she requests the opportunity to early in the planning process to provide input. So, and she has, other than me contacting her and letting her know that she won't be seeing any of this, she has reached out and contacted Winston Prouty, and the second email on the 13th was sent to Mark as well. You received this one. So she also sent me a delineation that was done on the property back in 2017. And that is your page number 22. And it shows the, in blue, you can see the entire wetland area that was delineated back in 2017. Now, 2017, as she reminded me for sure, and as I knew ahead of time, most professionals understand this, that wetlands only last for 5 years, but that's neither here nor there. I made the effort to take their plan and scale it to the same scale that drawing was and overlay it onto the wetland that was delineated in 2017. And as you can see, it is an exact match. That is on your 23. So it seems, I've been out in the field. You'll have people going out and delineating wetlands, and you never would have a match of a delineated wetland from 8 years ago to currently. They would just not be the same. So I would I conjecture that the data that they are relying upon is in fact a 2017 delineation, not in fact one that has been done within the last 5 years. So that is of concern to me, and it is very much of concern to Mrs. Chalmers. So, and I think it should be to you, especially seeing as they are bringing all of their stuff right up to that line. And it has very little leeway. So she was very concerned about that. I mean, she offered up this map to me, noticing that it looked very much like the same as what she had already seen back 8 years ago. So, and then if you go to the next slide, 24, you'll see one of the slides that wasn't shown on the didn't show up on that public hearing on the last go around because it was all on the screen. It just showed the screenshot. It didn't. I mean the list of items. So, but the interesting part of this is if you look at the top, you'll see the wetlands that was delineated back in 2000. And then you show below that, you see the wetland that was delineated in September of 2017, which is what Ms. Chalmers looked at back in 2017 and approved. And it seems as if it's the exact delineation that's being used in their map right now. But you can see how the wetland has grown.
Go ahead, Brian.
This really concerns state wetlands regulations and our local zoning.
Yeah.
Well, no, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it does because
No, back and forth, please. Go back and forth.
Okay.
And we're not going to solve this tonight.
My concern is that that the wetlands people have not been given the opportunity to do this, to take a look at it. And if you go through and approve the program, and it's gonna just have to get started all over again, that it really would make an awful lot of sense, as she has requested, to let her become involved in this so that we can really find out where the wetlands are. Because we're looking at this thing, and if you start doing this thing and all of a sudden there's wetlands there, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you're gonna have to start tearing the building down because you know, I don't know, it really doesn't make much sense.
Okay, so we're putting this into the record.
Okay.
Do you have another point to make now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, please move on.
Okay.
Do you want us to respond to these as we go?
There is one minor point that if you, one of the drawings that they sent out and is available online is the SKU1, their site utility schematic, and it shows their proposed sewer line going right through the area that on another drawing that they have says no construction in this area. So that would be something that you might want to keep an eye on. That was in the stream buffer, and which may eventually become a wetland buffer, depending on how Ms. Chalmers has a chance to, if and when she has a chance to look at that. The next one is the code information sheet from the fire department access road, which is what which I have been informed that the assistant fire chief uses for his information. What he looks at when he's trying to come up with approvals for this thing. In their plan, it's very hard to see. I had to get a big magnifying glass out to actually see it. But on the dimensions on their drawing, SC04 is the width that they supply to that fire truck is 18 feet. And if you look at the graphic on the upper right-hand corner on here, the minimum that the fire department access road requires is 20 feet. And so that, I don't know if he was actually aware that they were substandard on that dimension or not.
Okay.
So it might be something worthwhile bringing to his attention. And then I guess If you look at the second page of this, 26B, it sounds to me from the presentation that we just heard that they are saying, well, we're doing this and there's going to be a fire turnaround for a fire truck, but that can be used for moving vans and dumpsters and deliveries, and everybody can use that fire lane for all their deliveries and everything else. It sounded to me like that was, they have no other turnaround other than the fire lane in their proposed plan. And if you look at the very last section on this, the fire lanes are supposed to be kept open. You're going to have, if you allow this to happen, you're going to have moving vans pulling right into the fire lane. You've got a fire going on, the fire truck shows up, no place to go. They, like I said, on page 26B, the very last section in there says, no parking, no, nothing, no turnaround. So unless they are going to use that fire lane for their moving vans, for the deliveries, for everything else, they are going to have to be backing out onto the street, which is something that you requested them not to do.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that it sounded like that's what the whole plan was.
Okay. Any other points, Michael?
What's that?
Do you have any other points to make?
I down to the very end. Yeah. Yay. So I don't know. Yeah, let me see. It's hard to do this without a table, but I understand that you have concerns. I mean, I did talk to you last time about the different ways that you want, the different directions that you, definitions that you try to use for the front of the building, and how all that, how it, throughout this process, everything seems to change depending on whether the front of the building is the front of the building with the doors on it. We have a very specific definition in our book that says the front of the building is a plane where the front of the building is with the doors on it. They label the front of the building. They're not supposed to have the parking in front of the building. It is. They're, and they try to say, well, the front of the building kind of projects onto the road, and so there's a little section of the road here that kind of does this. So to me, it's very bulky, and it is approving this with these the direction that you're accepting this testimony and accepting the nuances of it. You are degrading our rules. If you allow people to get around the rules this easily on this project, you won't have the opportunity to enforce them on other people. So I am concerned. I do have something good to report. That just last week, that what I refer to as the printing yard lights that they had installed up there have been temporarily switched off. Just a week ago, yesterday, I believe. 14 months after I told Winston Prouty that they were that they were illegal. 12 months after my wife told Brian that they were there and requested that he do something about it. And 2 weeks after I got a hold of the Act 250 enforcement people, they reached out to Winston Prouty, and amazingly, within a couple of weeks, because as I mentioned last time, their lights can't be, according to their Act 250 permit, they can't be over 20 feet high. They can't be, and they have to be fully shielded. They still have lights up there that are over 20 feet high.
So
and are
that
still
is not.
no, there are
No.
more lights now that these lights went out.
I'm sorry, Michael, this board can't, there's nothing this board can do about things on the rest of the campus.
Okay, there is something that we can delay a subdivision until they come into compliance with their existing.
Okay.
With their existing, I mean.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I guess. Well, and I guess that's one of the concerns I have, is that without Act 250 on here, Act 250 does not have our backs on this one. This is all going to be on you. And so the responsibility for this stuff falls on you. It took 14 months to get those lights to get turned off. It's like ridiculous. So I guess the last thing I understood, just talking about Act 250 with this, is that I understand that back in 2023, the planning board changed or proposed a change to the Winston Prouty, to a portion of the Winston Prouty lot to be mixed use. And at the same time, Act 181 was in the process of going through a veto-proof legislature. But their actions, this would allow, by going to a mixed-use zone, this would allow this project to no longer being covered under Act 250.
Okay, thank you.
I understand that, I'm not a politician, nor do I want to be one, but I do understand that Act 250 doesn't particularly like people, anybody doing things to specifically avoid their jurisdiction, their oversight. It's just not a good thing. It's nothing that should happen. So my final statement, I guess, is that you, the board, I'm sorry I'm not getting your attention, but this structure just isn't right for Maple Street. And I implore you to become become Winston Prouty's conscience on this thing. And for the first phase of this project, of something that could be quite wonderful, the whole program up there could really be great, but
Okay.
I really implore you to be their conscience.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Steven.
So I just want to clarify a few things that were factually incorrect that we've heard in the testimony, just for the record. I think some of these things were already addressed in the previous meeting, so I would hate to take up your time with correcting those again, but traffic concerns are not germane, as we know. And in clarification that I know is not needed for you, but for the record, this is not in the historic district. And we do not require historic review because of that. This is not under review of Act 250, not because of the zoning change, which was a comprehensive townwide process that was not done specifically for the benefit of this parcel. Involved dozens of parcels across the town. Regardless, the reason why Act 250 doesn't apply here is because the town moved ahead with an application to the state to have an neighborhood development area designated, which was approved. There was a public process that goes into this, as there was with the rezoning. We did not receive any negative feedback on those things. This was approved by the state 2 years ago. And that covers a very large area of the town, but passed the state's review, and the state knew full well what the implication of that choice would be, which is that Act 250 review, as previously would be required, would no longer be required, and that the town would be responsible for the full review.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to make a statement? Please.
Fred Brunig, 26 Prospect Street, not in the immediate neighborhood, but fairly close to the project. I have been terribly impressed with O'Leary and her vision for the Winston Prouty campus, not just this project, but the whole, what she's done there, and what they've done on the with the campus. There's so many people that have offices there now, and just fantastic, I think, for the town that a project like this can move forward, hopefully, because we desperately need housing in the areas, I'm sure you know. So that's all I want to say. Very much in support of the project.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Are we able to respond?
You are.
Should we? No?
If you care to, yeah.
Yeah, I thank you, Stephen, for pointing out things that are not in the purview of the board, which I'm sure you're aware of. The main thing I wanted to address is the wetlands related issue. The delineation we had done was in 2023. I think it was done by one of the best wetland scientists in the state. I had been in communication with the wetlands office with Miss Chalmers, and our plan that you have in front of you says that we are not going to have any wetland disturbance, and we are not going to have any wetlands disturbance. And if we need to slightly change the location of the building to make that so, we are outside the buffer, but as we have learned that there's concerns, so we might slightly change that, but we have no plans to be within the wetland boundary or the buffer, and therefore we do not need to have a wetlands permit, but we are certainly going to work with the wetland program and Ms. Chalmers to make sure that we follow what they want.
Okay. Board want to address anything? Catherine? All right, I'm going to propose that we go into.
No questions.
Okay, I'm going to propose that we go into deliberative session now. Close the meeting from the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you.